Supreme Magus, Chapter 13. Learning a Trade Again. Nana's work ethic didn't allow for favoritism of any kind. Lid may have been her future apprentice, but Tista had to wait for her turn like everyone else. Lid hadn't been so happy of being stuck in the queue since his student days in college, when he would use every single second to review his weakest subjects. So much to read and so little time. Better to cram light and dark magic since they are the only elements outside the physics as I know it. In the best case scenario, it will take years to get my hands on a book again, and there is only so much I can learn as self-taught. When it came their turn, he studied carefully how the healer performed the light magic Vinireratu. It was the same life force detecting spell she had used on him 3 years ago, and this time he had a better understanding of magic and a way better standpoint. Being next to her, Lid could appreciate every gesture and hand movement Nana used to amplify the spell effectiveness. The light enveloped Tista's body, quickly turning gray around her chest, clearly outlining the shape of her lungs. I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that Tista's condition is the same as always. There is no sign of degeneration this time. The bad news is that it doesn't seem to be improving either. I'm afraid that she will remain like this forever. The more she grows, the lesser the chances that her body will be able to somehow fix itself. The air in the room turned heavy. A lifetime of illness was barely better than no life at all. Lid was so shocked to completely forget about the books. The whole world meant nothing to him if he could not share it with the only 3 people he loved and trusted. They came out of Nana's house in low spirits, returning home without speaking a word. Once arrived, Elena shared the bad news, searching for Ra's arms before starting to cry. One by one, the whole family burst into tears, hugging each other in search of comfort. Lid allowed himself to cry, cursing the cruel fate that had befallen his sister. What good is magic if I keep being helpless? Why do I keep reincarnating? Simply to replace one's living hell with another? Is this just bad luck? Or is it my fault? Could it be that in some previous life I committed such an atrocious act that now all those I love are cursed? Could this be my punishment? During the following days, Lid kept second-guessing every life choice he had made, before accepting the fact that bad things happen. Tista was already ill when he resurrected for the second time. It couldn't be his fault. Having been accepted as Nana's apprentice, he could now practice magic openly. Soon he proved capable of cleaning the whole house by himself, relieving his mother and sister from all the chores. Thanks to darkness magic, cleaning dishes and cauldrons became a matter of minutes. Nothing organic, be it food residue or grease, could escape being turned into dust by a single spark of energy. He also made countless experiments with light magic in search for a cure. Yet, all he managed to do was keeping the symptoms at bay. Tista now needed much less treatments from Nana, but was still prisoner in her own body. This caused Orpal to hate him more and more. Show off! How am I supposed to enjoy my life with him constantly breathing on my neck? Not only Lit shares the housework with Mom, but also spends so much time with Tista. Mom and Dad always praise him for his so-called talent and intelligence. And now they never shut up about Leech saving the family a lot of money by tending Tista condition on his own. No one gives a damn about me wasting my time and sweat doing all the farm work. Gods, why did you let him live? Why did you give me any talent? Oblivious of his brother's feelings, Lid was not coping much better. His magic power and comprehension of mana kept growing, but it could not erase the perpetual taste of failure that accompanied him. In the following year, he could not feel any joy regarding magic. Every discovery was useless, all his power meaningless. And so he was finally 4 years old. The period between 4 and 6 years in Lutia was called the Golden Age, since the child was big enough to have some freedom and too little to be of any help in the daily activities. They would be allowed to play all day without a care in the world. It was the perfect time to make friends and grow closer to one's own neighbors and deepen the ties between the families. The day of his 4th birthday, after he finished the chores, Elena introduced him to all their neighbors before returning home. He was supposed to socialize and play, but Lid had other plans. There was no amount of failures or grief that could make him forget for long the hunger that consumed him since he was barely 5 months old. Ras Farm was on the western edge of Lucia's farmlands, a little less than a kilometer apart from the great woods known as Tron. Despite the pretentious name, it wasn't particularly dangerous. The people who lived in the nearby villages depended on the forest as their primary source of timber for their everyday life. Tron was also abundant in wildlife, so those bold and lucky enough would go hunting all year around, searching for precious meat, warm fur, or both. It was impossible to meet monsters in the forest unless one went several kilometers deep. Since there was no need for exploring Tron in detail, the inner area was still uncharted territory. There was a reason if Lid had never practiced martial art in the New World, not even the footwork. The constant practice of magic required a lot of energy, and his household lacked the necessary resources for his training. Lid was already skinnier than all of his siblings. Any more exertion and he would turn into a pile of bones. He needed food. But being a city boy, he knew nothing about butchering. He needed a teacher. And that's why he was headed for the house of Celia Fasterow, the only hunter among their neighbors. The problem is that I have no idea how to get her to help. I'm still too little for apprenticeship, and even if I wasn't, it's unlikely she had not heard about Nana's offer. She has nothing to gain helping me. I can only hope she is a kind and benevolent woman. Celia's house was a single-story wooden house, much smaller than Lid's, about 60 square meters large. There was no henhouse or barn. Except for the space in the near proximity of the house, the fields were uncultivated, full of weeds, tall grass, and whatever the wind had planted over time. She clearly has no interest in farming and stock breeding, and that's good news. Means her business is good enough. I wonder what's in the shed near the house. It's almost as big as the house itself. Lid knocked, his inwards tied in a knot from the nervousness. The door opened almost immediately. "You again? Are you lost or something?" Celia was a woman in her early 30s, 1.7 meters tall, the skin tanned from years of long exposure to the sun. Her black hair was kept short with a haircut identical to Earth's military standards. She could have been considered very cute, but the small bosom, coupled with her sharp eyes and rough attitude, made her manlier than most farmers. She wore a leather hunting jacket over a green skirt, green cargo pants, and brown hunting boots with a soft outer sole to limit the noise made while moving. "Hi, Miss Fastero. I need a favor. Could you please teach me how to skin and gut animals?" Celia raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because I am hungry." Not having any lever on her, Lid had decided that truth was the best policy. "I have been hungry long enough to forget how being full feels. I know I can hunt, but I also know that without proper handling meat goes bad and it's inedible." "No, you got me wrong. I mean, why should I help you? What's in for me?" Now she was knitting her eyebrows. "What do you want?" Did asked while bottling up the urge to kill her slow and painful. He was hungry enough to see her as query. "Honestly, I don't believe a runt that barely reaches my belt can hunt anything, not even a rat. And since stinching is a waste of time, it demands compensation." She scratched her chin, searching for a deal bad enough to drive the pest away. She never wanted a child of her own, let alone dealing with someone else. "So if you want to learn from me, first you must bring here some game. If you mess up while playing butcher, you ruin my merchandise, wasting my goods and time. So here's my deal. Whatever you bring me, I'll teach you how to skin and gut it. But half of it is mine for the trouble. Take it or leave it." So much for the kind and benevolent woman. This is plain extortion, Lid thought. "I'll take it. How long will you stay home?" he replied. "I'll be here all day. I have a lot of work to do." "Why?" "Because when I get back with my prey, I'll need your help. Don't forget our deal." Lid turned around, moving towards the woods. Seeing the little runt act all tough without a bow, traps, or even just a bag for the game, Celia could not help but laugh out loud. That until the door suddenly slammed on her face, sending her butt first on the floor. After getting up, she went to the nearest window. Lid was still in the same spot, but his face was turned towards her door, his eyes glowing bright in the dim light of the dawn. After getting at the edge of the woods, he activated the light spell, Life Vision. It was one of his creations from the last years of practice. By infusing his eyes with light magic, Lid was able to see living beings as colored, while the rest of the world was turned into shades of gray. The stronger the life force, the bigger and brighter was the light emitted. This was why he could easily spot animals even if they were hiding underground, in bushes, or inside a tree. Lee did not need to hunt something big. As long as it was meat, it was the perfect prey. Most of the animals would run away as soon as he came too close, but not all of them. Birds and squirrels perched on trees, branches felt safe, but Lee's spirit magic had reached a range over 20 meters. They were all within his reach. He only needed to extend his open hand towards the quarry, then squeeze and turn it for a neck to be broken. In less than 20 minutes, he had killed 2 odd feathered birds and 2 squirrels. I could catch more, but I want to pay that harpy as little as possible. While returning to the hunter's house, his greed was debating fiercely with his rage. Damn it, I wish I could just ask my father. Our farm has a hen house. We eat chicken, so he must know how to butcher it. But if I do, then I'll be forced to share my quarry in equal parts. And if there is something that I hate more than being robbed by that harpy, is the idea of Warple and Tryon having the same amount of meat as me, or worse, even more being older. I hunted this game. This meat is mine, mine. They only be allowed to eat my scraps when and if I want so. When Lid got to the door, he had calmed down, the rage hidden by his business face. He took deep breaths before knocking again. When Celia saw him, was on the verge of mocking him, calling him a quitter for giving up in less than 1 hour. But then Lid showed her his game, making her whole never underestimate how hard the hunter's job is. Speech died in her throat.